Welcome to LG Hockey Hotline. I am V High with Maranaconda and Goose Chuck. We are about to have Prime Time joining us to talk a little bit of Can-Am to get the show kicked off. After he gets here and we talk about that, we will have another special guest. We will talk about him shortly, but we have Prime Time joining us right now. Going to talk a little Can-Am with him. What's going on, Nick? How you doing, man?
Hey, how you guys doing? Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you.
All right. How you guys doing today?
Oh, not too bad. So jumping on right before you got to play a tournament, huh?
Yeah, it's a little scouting thing we got going together. I mean, we're still looking at a bunch of people to fill slots, and Frost had this good idea like he did in the preseason, if people remember, with the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Man. I love that idea. It's a brilliant idea.
He brought it up the first couple days we had this thing going. I was like, it's brilliant. You're going to get 16, 20 people looks within a 2-hour period. You're going to see a lot of people be very competitive.
For sure. It's a really good idea. I love the way it's set up. I think you guys are doing a really good job with that, man. So I wish you well, and should be a lot of fun, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we've already been the last couple of days talking with people. It's anything that's always going to be competitive sixes in this game is going to be fun. Anytime you can sit down, get 12 people that know each other in a lobby and can play very fun hockey. Like, that's why we do this.
Right.
For sure.
Without a doubt.
So you guys have that kind of set up from your angle here for the tournament tonight, with each one of the 4 management members taking a team and having 5 other guys on that team that you're trying out?
Well, it's going to be more than 5, and we did have 4 managers set up. However, Frobe, the Rahanic, obviously, you associate him with talent, everybody. He isn't going to be around. So as of a couple minutes ago, actually, we're going to have my LG friend Ryan the Beholder taking the 4th team. And that's what we'll be doing, though. The other 3 of us, Jay Claus, me, and Frost, will all be taking a team. We'll be streaming the games, keeping the archives for us to go back and look at and see all the players individually, first spots on the team. And it'll be teams of more than 6. Each team got 2 forward reserves, 1 or 2 defense reserves, and 2 different goalies. And we've set the rules that, there's going to be 4 or 5 games tonight. We want to see everybody get at least 2 games that are on those rosters.
Well, that sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know how difficult it's actually going to be to try and go through to get all these players and make the team. I'm sure, obviously, you've got some guys that are already going to be on the team, but trying to fill this out and get the 5 lines set is an interesting way to do this tournament. And, I think what's really cool about this is, there's national pride involved, but it also gets people going on the site, giving them something different to look forward to instead of just the regular LG season. Just a different take on how to play EA Sports Hockey League and get a different way to get a tournament going.
Yeah, and to speak on that, if you go back to the roots of this thing, this has always been an Xbox thing that we've organized since the early days of NHL 09 and 10. I mean, that's a little before my time. But Can-Am, it's a big thing for national pride. It's always a big thing. Get the biggest game players in the game, have them go at it. But the biggest part of it, which anyone that's ever participated will tell you, is the time it used to happen was in February. And it was always to just put a little bit more juice back into the game, to get those people who may have gone away from the game or may not like the game want to come back and play these games. And it's just to get the community playing more. Because even those guys who aren't going to make the team, you got to think they're going to want to go out there and be like, shit, I didn't make the team. I want to go out there. I still want to prove myself as somebody who didn't make the team. Or even if it's just somebody who didn't enjoy the game and now they're playing it again and seeing a bunch of people come back and play it. It's just a lot more people getting games played. And that's what this is about, is to get a lot of the things moving and stirring and get the community excited again about playing hockey.
Yeah, for sure. What are you looking for as far as this tournament goes? What do you want to get out of this? Is this to win it, or not just that, but just really to go out there and have fun and fill some kind of free time that you might have?
Well, I'm a competitor. I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose if it's I'm sorry. Excuse my language. I don't want to lose if it's checkers or chess, or it's just an argument with my girlfriend. I don't want to lose, period. So I want to win, but I've outlined in the thread, this isn't just going to be about scores tonight. Everybody in charge of USA knows how to evaluate players. They know what to look for in players. We're looking for people who we feel are going to have the right attitude for this team, who are going to come in and contribute with the button skills, people who want to be here, want to do this. We're looking for very specific people. It's going to be very tough calls, but we're looking for a multitude of things from these players that we want to be shown tonight.
Now, you know, you get this tournament tonight, but for somebody who wants to play for Team USA, but they're not able to play in this tournament tonight, what can they look forward to over the next few weeks to try and make that team?
Well, me and all the captains are doing it. Some of the captains are doing it on their own with their own clicks. I've been very public. If you tune into the LG forums, go to the Can-Am section. I'm having these lobbies I host. Like last week when we had 2 very important games to get St. Louis into the playoffs as far as LG goes, an hour before that, I took time aside, got 11 people who I'd say about 9 of them weren't going to be in this tournament, and I got them into these games. I'm giving them looks. We have 150 people signed up in that thread that want to get looks for USA, and I'm doing my absolute best to get 80, 90 of them in a game, get some sort of evaluation, and just get them something on paper and say, hey, listen, I saw you play. I like this. Maybe you could do this a little better, but I did give you your fair shot, and I hope somebody does come out of nowhere and wow me. There's always going to be 1 or 2 of those in Can-Am where there's going to be people like, who is this guy? Why is he on Team America? And in the next bidding, he goes for 7.5 mil. So,
yeah, for sure.
So,
and you know, that's it's a good way for guys to get their name out there. I know it's really frustrating from the management side to have, you know, 150 people blowing up your messages when you're trying to figure out yourself how exactly you're going to do it. So I like the way you guys are kind of, especially tonight, doing this tournament, getting guys in and getting a chance to show yourself. But it's also on the players who are playing to, you know, you can't expect to get 6 or 7 games with you guys to try and make the team. You've got to perform in the maybe only 1 or 2 games that you get.
Exactly. It's like it goes back to middle school. If you try out for the basketball team, you get a week. There's 5 to 6 guys on the team. They're trying to fill out the rest of the squad. You have a week to show the coach why you feel you should be on the team. It's that simple. You're going to get limited looks. You got to impress when you get those limited looks.
Yep. And it's not that you're meaning to hurt people's feelings, but, you know, out of 150 guys that sign up, you know, 125 of them are going to go home disappointed. So
yeah, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Everybody wants to play. A lot of people want to sign up and get those games. And you just, as good of a person as I like to think I am, there's going to be some people I have to hurt their feelings and say, I'm sorry. I like you as a person. You're probably an awesome person. You're probably extremely fun to play hockey with, but you just, you know, you didn't make the cut. Yeah. Sorry.
And it's nothing personal meant from either side. I'm sure I can speak on behalf of Rahanik's side over there with Team Canada too, that it's nothing personal when you're trying to make these teams. In a management spot, you're not trying to make friends. You're supposed to be trying to put the best team possible with the pool of players that you have available to you out there. And, you know, it's tough to go through and get your eyes on everybody, which is why you have multiple people in management here. And you all have to come together and decide as a group who's going to help this team the most and how can we proceed without, you know, putting too much effort on things that aren't going to help us.
Correct. And one thing that does underlie about this that a lot of people never really put 2 and 2 together is a lot of people in this are going to be very involved with LG. It's going to be a lot of management. A lot of people who might not even be playing in these games might be watching these games on either me, Klaus's stream, Frost's stream. And if these people don't make Team USA, that doesn't mean you still can't make a name for yourself in LG going forward. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a few people who I've never heard of, saw the thread, have messaged me, have played in these lobbies games, and I've gone straight to Rye like, listen, this guy's on our team next season if he goes for less than $1 million. And there's a lot of people out there. I'm serious. There's about 5 or 6 people that may not be ready for this Can-Am type of level of competition, but I'll take them as a blue to come, you know, beat up on third lines next year. No problem. Absolutely. So
Right.
there's a lot of factors going into this. And again, it all boils down to, you know, yes, this is Can-Am, but this is a good thing for the community, the PlayStation 4 community. And yeah, there's a lot of Xbox names guys coming over here, which, you know, can be hot or cold when it comes to the type of people in the PS4 community who are PS4 names who have been here for the long haul. But it's getting people who don't normally play together to play together, create more Sixes games, create more things going forward, and hopefully that creates a better league, a better pro series, and it just, you know, elevates everything else around them.
Yeah, I just personally, I mean, from the way it sounds and everything, I mean, it sounds like this is going to be a hell of a lot better or more competitive than IHL was. Because I'll be honest, I kind of felt a little bit let down with the way IHL was operated. You know, it just felt like guys didn't really give a shit about it. You know, people weren't showing up. They weren't doing stats. They weren't, you know, they were just like, whatever, it's IHL. Who cares? It's like, whatever, man. You know, a lot of people went, you know, they took the time. They signed up for this. They got themselves on a team and they want to take it seriously. And you got you know, X, Y, and Z guy over here not taking it seriously. And that's just like a kick in the balls to the guys who are like, well, hey, man, like, we need to take this serious. So I'm glad to see that you guys are actually taking this a hell of a lot more serious than it seemed like guys did in the IHL.
And to speak on that, I think a big factor with that is in the IHL, you were kind of drafted and then thrown on a training camp team. This is a legit, like, you're on this team, you're somebody. This is the competition here. So people want to be here. They want to be known. You know, as much as we want to sit here and say we're not video game nerds, we're video game nerds. We want to be known as the best players in America and Canada. And we want to go head to head and we want to fight each other out to see who's the best, period. IHL is kind of like, okay, this person's here. I mean, I didn't personally plan it to know the flow, but what I can speak on is the competitiveness maybe isn't as there as much as it is here.
Yeah, just it was more like just exhibitions is all it really was. And it's not like people are from Finland or Switzerland or you know,
correct. That's a different entity. Here it's like
buy into it here.
Yeah, here it's like, hey, you know, this is the best players from America. This isn't just whoever wants to play for America. Like, no, you live here, you play here.
Right.
Well, you can't say we're not video game nerds. We have you on right now.
Correct.
To do a podcast about a video game.
Yeah.
We run a radio show about a video game.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's why I always like to joke about with people in this game. It's like people you'll go on the forums and you'll see people like, well, I make 6 figures a year and I'm having sex with 3 different girls when I go. I'm like, you're a video game nerd. You're signing up to it. That's what you are. I don't care how cool your day is.
Yep, absolutely. Well, listen, dude, I know you got to get ready and go play some games. I really appreciate you coming on here. Is there anything else that you want to get out there as far as information goes about how Can-Am works or what to look forward to, at least from the U.S. side moving forward?
From the U.S. side, we're still looking for spots. This tournament's a big thing. But it's not the see-all, do-all. We are still going to pull lobbies aside. We are still going to get as many people in this game as possible. Do not feel down or up if you do or do not make – we'll obviously feel up if you do make the team. But again, I know it's maybe the 10th time I've said it in the last 10 minutes. Enjoy the game for what it is. Okay, this game is something that we all enjoy getting together and doing. There's going to be a lot more people coming here to play, whether it's Can-Am, whether it's Pro Series, whether it's LG. Just show up. Show up, have a fun time, do what you do, and who knows what can happen. Maybe you're winning the next Pro Series and your name's Silly Sniper 123. Nobody knows. Okay, that's the magic of this game. And this game, it's a crazy game. We all see what happens. It's definitely weird. Some weird things happen. That's what it comes down to in the end.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for taking time to jump on the show tonight. I know you got a busy schedule.
No, thank you guys for having me. Definitely appreciate you guys.
Moving forward, if you ever want to come on here as this tournament progresses and talk about anything, or if you have any other guys that you want to suggest to get on the show, just keep in contact with us. We'll be watching closely. And hopefully we'll get some games with you sometime soon. It doesn't even have to be for Can-Am, but just get some games. I know we played against you a couple times this year in St. Louis. So look forward
you guys
to
know how to
how
reach
this
me.
plays out.
Yeah, you guys know how to reach me. I'm always around when I'm on.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, thanks for coming on, dude, and good luck tonight. Hope you win the tournament.
Thank you, guys. Have a good rest of the show.
Have a good one. And that was Prime Time, who's in management for the U.S. team in Can-Am. Very interesting how that's going to play out and see if from my perspective, U.S. is better than Canada. We'll see what happens.
We sure will. I haven't really seen too much about Canada on the threads and stuff. Nowhere near as much as I've seen about the U.S. So it looks like the U.S. is really out to do their homework and find the guys that they want to be on that team. So that's a great job by them, and I hope they find the right stew, as it were, and get it mixed up nice.
Yep, absolutely. So we're going to be having another guest on here in the next probably 5 minutes. Could be sooner than that, but probably in the next 5 minutes or so. A guy that's wanted to get on the show for a while, and finally we've got some time to get him on. Some people may know who it is, seeing me talk to him in the shout box recently, but some may not. I don't want to spoil it until he jumps in here, so I'm not going to say his name yet. But before that, is there any house cleaning we want to get to? Obviously, we started the show off by jumping right in with Knicks. So anything we want to get to before we start breaking down some playoffs or power rankings?
Just to reiterate on the whole being at games on time thing. Coming into the playoffs here, it's going to be absolutely massively important that people are on time.
Well, forget the on time too thing. Like just making your games.
Yeah, that and also, I just want to put out there to everybody who is in the playoffs, all the owners, GMs, basically anybody. Read the rules. Make sure you read the rules, and make sure that you know how the playoffs work, so we don't see it costing anybody games, come playoff time.
Well, we do have our guest here, and it is Charlie Serp 13 from the New Jersey Devils.
What up, boys? How's it going?
It's going good, Serp. So first thing, I just want to welcome you to the show. I know you've been wanting to get on for a while. We're finally getting you on here. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Oh, not too bad. Getting ready to get into some playoff matchup breakdowns and the power rankings and all that stuff, but talking to you first.
That's the good part.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, I'm going to jump right into this. You were with New Jersey to start the season and then moved around a little bit and ultimately came back to New Jersey. And after you guys hit the trade deadline, you won your last 24 of your 28 games to end the season. What clicked about your team that you guys ended up going on that winning streak?
I feel everybody was just on the same page. We were just dominating teams. Everybody was just cycling the puck around, and I don't know. It also helps we had the best goalie post trade deadline on our team that played 6 a week in Bielski. So
yeah, he's been on the power rankings every week since then.
Yeah, he lives up there.
Yeah, I mean 6-0. I think he's had 2 or 3 6-0 weeks himself.
Yeah, for sure.
So, New Jersey kind of, when we had Colt Crazy on the trade deadline special, you guys were sitting in the 8th spot and were only, I think, 6 points up from the 9th spot and falling out of the playoffs. And then you guys went on this run and locked up a division spot with I think 7 games to go in the season. You guys were able to clinch your playoff spot in the division, not even worry about the wild card.
Yeah.
Has your team kind of just hit its stride? Do you guys think you're getting hot at the right time, or do you think maybe there's a possibility you got hot a little too early?
I think we had our stride. I don't even think we had our stride yet, to be honest. I mean, we lost the game. We lost a couple games this week, so I don't know. I feel like at the start of the week, we had our eyes set on passing Columbus and didn't really work out. So now we want the revenge here in the playoffs. And we're ready.
Well, they went 9-1 this week, so it would have been tough to catch them. But, I think, what was your win streak? You guys won 17 in a row?
I think it was 16 or 17, and the spread was nuts. We just couldn't lose.
If I'm not mistaken, that's the best win streak in the league this season.
I just didn't have a losing streak though there, like Detroit.
Yeah, their losing streak was large, I'll say. But the Devils have really come into their own, and you guys are definitely a force to be reckoned with. I know people have been talking about.
Yeah, we better be talked about what we just did those past 3 weeks.
Jonathan, you're muted. I was wondering what happened there. That was bizarre.
I didn't
Okay.
even touch anything.
Yeah, I
Weird.
got muted too. So I was wondering, let's reset that here because you cut off in the middle of your question, Jonathan, and then
Okay.
Serp started answering, and it was just kind of like this
Serp's on
weird
mute
moment.
too. Yeah.
Serp, you're on mute as well. Go ahead and unmute your mic. That was bizarre. It just
I've never
randomly
seen
went
that.
through and muted everybody. Shoot
All
him.
right,
There he
pretty good
goes.
now.
There he goes. Okay,
Yeah.
reset your question here, Jonathan.
So
That was weird.
So early in the season, New Jersey was a fringe playoff team that not many people were talking about. Made the move to get Theos. At the trade deadline, you moved him out to Columbus, and after that, have really been. You were the bet. You finished the last 3 weeks of the season as the best team in the Eastern Conference for the final 28 games. I think people don't really give New Jersey the credit they deserve yet, but I think you guys are about to make some noise in the playoffs. And if you can knock out Columbus in round one, a lot of people are going to be talking a lot of stuff about New Jersey.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like this Columbus matchup here in the first round is bigger than just a first round matchup. It might be like an Eastern Conference final like type series that'll decide who goes to Stanley Cup. We just been hot. I don't know. I've been traded a lot this season, and this is probably the best team I've been on. And I've been on like every Eastern Conference team.
You guys have been ripping it up the last couple of weeks, and my hat's off to you. And I'm going to go ahead and say it was the hockey hotline karma, because we did have Colt on the show right at the deadline, and
Yeah.
it seems like you guys just took off after that point.
I shouldn't be on that. We don't want to revert. We don't want to reverse it.
Well, have a good night. See you later. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll treat it kind of like the jungle karma.
Yeah, I wanted to have you on because, especially because of the position that New Jersey sits in right now. Obviously, the work that Pittsburgh and Columbus did throughout the season, it was tough to catch them to get to the top of the division. But you guys finished up pretty far on the wild card position, like I said, and I think what Colt did when he came on here, like you finished 16 points ahead of the Islanders, who were leading the division through 3.5 weeks.
Yeah.
I think when Colt came on here, he sounded very confident and very calm about this team, thinking that we asked him about, do you think you'll make the playoffs? How do you think it's going? And he really said, I'm not worried. We're going to be in the playoffs. I trust this team. And you guys made moves early in the season to get guys like Chiz Nasty on the team, and he's played outstanding since coming to New Jersey. He's a really good number one center for you guys. But your defensive core and your goalies have really seemed to hit their stride as you've played, and you're part of that D core. Do you guys like how the D core and goaltenders are looking as far as a playoff series is concerned?
Yeah, I feel like we're a solid group. Anybody could play a first line, like a J Claus in the first round. I have confidence in and maybe except Sean on defense. I feel like we're good except without him. But yeah, I mean, we got 2 good goalies, 6 good defensemen. It's just up to the forwards to do their work. Then I'll have to start jumping up, and then just cause more problems.
Now, Serp, I had the pleasure of playing you guys the other night, and Washington, we weren't the best team, but regardless of that, trying to go against you guys, we really had no success. You guys had offensive firepower.
Yeah.
You guys shut us down when we tried to enter the zone. What do you think is your strongest point on that team? You're pretty well-rounded, and like you mentioned, and like we've been talking about, no matter who you play in the playoffs, I think New Jersey is going to be a well-rounded team that can take any series to 6 or 7 games, or even some teams you guys could win 4-0 if you're firing on all cylinders. What do you think's the key, or just like your strong point in the lineup for the Devils?
I think it's a depth once again with the defense, goalies, and our forwards. Man, they don't get enough talk in the league. They might not lead the league in points, but 1 through 9, they can all just go off in a game, and we get good time on attack, and that's important. I just feel like just working it like we did to you guys. I mean, we just kept overloading you guys and couldn't get the puck out.
Yeah, that was tough. Mamba had a couple nice goals.
Yeah, well, he's a hut guy, so he does all those cool tricks. I just got a straight line, so.
Yeah, you got me off the face off one of the between the legs off the tie up. I was blown away. I don't know what to do.
That's why I moved to defense. Those moves are not my forte.
Let's talk about real quick. Let's talk about the addition of Jedi. I mean, here's a guy who was waived. He was waived by the Islanders.
He was with Carolina earlier.
Yeah, he was waived by the Hurricanes. Then he was waived by the Islanders, and you guys ended up scooping him up off waivers right just after American Thanksgiving there. And it looks like he's just come in and basically dominated. Doesn't look like he didn't lose a single game in regulation for you guys in the 3 weeks that he was with you there at the end of the season. What kind of an addition has he been to the team?
Well, let me first say this. Like, when we claimed him on waivers, I was like, who is this guy? And I seen he was on a 3-year deal. I was like, all right. So a team had to believe in him a little bit to give him that deal. And then I was like, why did the Islanders waive it? And they had like 12 forwards. So I was like, all right, this guy should be good. And he's just plugged right in the lineup and did work. Like you said, he didn't lose as a Devil yet.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's luck.
It's definitely rare in LG when you can find a guy on waivers that comes in, and especially late in the season, and for 3 weeks, every single game he plays in, he picks up at least a point. It's tough to find guys on waivers because teams just don't waive good players typically.
Well, usually guys on waivers have attitude problems or availability problems or this and that. And Jedi is a super good dude.
He's got great availability. He's a great Skype guy, locker room guy. So
yeah, everything's perfect. That was a really good pickup for Colt and you guys. I think that was kind of a silent killer there. That's a great pickup.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, listen, sir, thanks for coming on the show, man. I'm glad we finally got you on. I was not running away from having you on. It's just been extremely busy trying to get all this stuff together. So
that's fine, dude.
Thanks for coming on. We'll definitely have you on again in the future, hopefully in the playoffs to talk about a series win against Columbus.
Yeah, or the Stanley Cup win.
Right. That too. But good luck through the playoffs in your first series for sure. And I wish New Jersey nothing but the best. You guys have really put together a good team and hit your stride at the right time of the year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Have a good weekend.
Yeah.
And that was Serp 13 of the New Jersey Devils, one of their defensemen in a strong defensive core. Their goalies also, as we'll get to here in the power rankings in just a few minutes. Bielski's on there again, I believe.
Number one.
Yeah, he knocked Schneider out of that number one spot the last couple weeks. Playing outstanding hockey over there in New Jersey, and they've really hit their stride, like we've been saying. That they're hottest team in the league right now. I would say, and if not, definitely in the top 3 hottest teams in the league coming into the playoffs, and definitely not a team, especially if you're like Columbus. You do what you can, finish that high, and then your first round matchup is against a team like New Jersey. That's really where finishing number one in your division can help you, or number one in your conference to try and get that 8th overall seed. Otherwise, you get stuck playing a division matchup against a team like this. The Columbus, New Jersey matchup, Arizona and Edmonton is going to be tough. Even Anaheim, who ended up finishing second in the President Trophy race because of that, now they've got to face Vancouver in round 1. That's going to be an extremely difficult series for them to start off with, especially ending the season with 122 points. A lot of interesting matchups here. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and move into the weekly power rankings.
Oh, man.
Maybe. So this week's weekly power rankings, we got some new names on here. The last few weeks there's been kind of a shuffle with names and different guys getting themselves in these power rankings, and this week no different. I'll go ahead and start off with goalies because I'm sure you guys are all sick of hearing me talk. So I'll get the goalies done and then get the hell out of the way so you guys can hear from Goose and Moran a little bit. So for goalies, coming in at the 10th spot this week, I do want to spend a second talking about our guy T-Bod68. He's one of our 2 goalies here for the Arizona Coyotes. I would say our Achilles heel all year was the goddamn shutout. We just couldn't get a shutout. Every time it'd be just give up the last goal in the last 5 minutes of the game and finish the game giving up 1 goal. Couldn't get that shutout. But I believe it was Tuesday night. Or no, I'm sorry, it was Wednesday night. T-Bod in the 78th game of the year finally gave up 0 goals in a game, got us our first shutout. Got us off the schneid heading into the playoffs.
It was Tuesday night, to be exact.
It was Wednesday night. We didn't play Wednesday. It was game 78, second game of the night. And he gave up 1 goal in the first game, I believe. Or was it Tuesday?
Yes, it was Tuesday against Winnipeg,
Tuesday.
4-0.
I don't know. I'm losing my mind, so who cares? Oh, we were in that game, weren't we? I was thinking it wasn't our I was thinking it wasn't our game.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I don't know. Fuck. Anyway, he got a shutout. He went 3-1 this week. Another guy that I've actually had the pleasure of playing games with in the last week and a half, 2 weeks is AHL All-Star, the I guess you would call backup goalie behind Schneider there in Anaheim, but he's really played outstanding. He finished this week 3-2 in what was the toughest week for Anaheim all season. They went 4-6 on the week. But he was 3-2, had 2 shutouts for 2 of his 3 wins. Matt Disney for LA, he was on here several times throughout the season. He got a shutout this week, went 3-1. Gwynn 21 for the Columbus Blue Jackets went 5-0. He had a 2.14 goals against, 79.3 save percentage. And I think Columbus had the best week this week as far as out of all the teams in the league. I think they went 9-1 this week, and I don't believe any teams had that same record. So good for them and a good week by Gwynn. Ryan 28, owner of the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres had a rougher second half of the season than the first half, and Ryan took over that team, and it's good to see him get on this list to end the season. He deserves to be here. This guy's put in a lot of time with Buffalo as an owner and done his job. He got a 5-2 record this week, playing 7 games. Of course, you could play 7 this week because of the 10 games. 4 goals against and an 80 save percentage. Zefster makes his way back on here in week 9, just like he did in week 1, picking up points in every game, going 3-0-2, having 1 shutout, 1.68 goals against, and an 86.3 save percentage. And then you see Viper. He's a normal name here in the power rankings for goalies for Chicago. He went 5-1 this week, helping the Chicago Blackhawks make a run and pick up the President's Trophy. He had a 1.66 goals against and an 88.4 save percentage. We have a proud dad in Florida who made himself the league's 3rd star of the week, going 4-0 with a 1.22 goals against and an 87.8 save percentage with 1 shutout. You laughing at that, Mike?
Yeah.
He had his 1 shutout. Great week for him as well. Penguins 2013 went 5-1 this week with a 1.5 goals against and an 84.2 save percentage for the Edmonton Oilers. Also picking up 2 shutouts. I believe one of those was against us. And the number 1 goalie for the league this week was Bielski, of course. He went 6-0-1, making 75 saves, a 1.69 goals against average, and an 86.2 save percentage, picking up 1 shutout. I am going to make my first star this week. I don't think I can go any other way. I'm going to have to go Bielski. Played 7 games, picked up points in all 7 games, went 6-0-1, had a shutout, 1.69 goals against and an 86.2 save percentage. New Jersey's been riding him hard, and he's answered the call. So Bielski gets my first star of the week for goaltending. Great job, man. we're going to go ahead and move on to defense. Goose Chuck, what do we got for defense this week?
Defense, we got a couple of outstanding performances, I think. We'll start down at the lower end of the spectrum around number 20. A couple of odd, I guess, top 20 making. Do we have DC Skins here for LA 2-0 with only 2 points and a +4? I usually don't see, a 2-point performance, but obviously picked up a couple wins there. We get Niner 80 Rice 4-0, a nice performance for him. Inglis on Dallas 3-1, 14 points, a +17. Now, bit inflated because they had a 15-1 win over Calgary. So that's why I'd assume why he's down there at the 18th ranking, along with that one loss he had. But regardless, you put 14 points up in any week. That's pretty good, no matter who you're playing. End of a circle for Columbus and Montoni for Columbus. They are the 2 of the 4 Blue Jackets that made the list this week. 3-0 for Circle, 3-0 for Montoni. Combined 8 points there, 3 goals for Circle himself. Then we get a pair of Senators at 15-14, LeBlanc 77 and Bloop 33, 2-1 and 3-1 respectively, 8 and 10 points, 3 and 4 goals, a +7 for LeBlanc, a +17 for Bloop. Good week there for 2 of the Senators. Coach Bombay 2-0, 3 points for Minnesota. B37 Will 3-0, 5 points for Arizona. Getting closer to the top 10 here, we have the Sophist 3-0, 3 points and a +5 for Carolina. Boston Sean, who Sert mentioned earlier for the Devils, 3-0, 7 points, a +8. Nick 2-0, 6 points, even on the board. Again, I don't know. It seems like a weird week to see somebody with 2 games up in the top 10. But, we don't see that too often. But being able to put up 3 points per game, that'll get you up there. And this is, again, definitely different from what we've seen the last few weeks. We see a lot more scoring from defensemen, I think, going through here. Again, there were a couple blowout wins over the last week throughout the league, so that might be equating to it. But
and
regardless,
a few guys with 4 games played as well.
True, yeah. So 4 games will obviously help that. I'm getting closer to the top here. 8th on the list, Quantum Physics 4-0, 8 points, a +16, playing on both left and right D. A good performance for him in Pittsburgh. Rishkoy 2-0, 6 and a +6. Ryudo for Colorado, perfect 4-0, 6 points and a +5 on left D. Top 5 here, Potsy on LA 2-0, 4 points, +5. Knees on Edmonton, a great performance by him, 3-0. 7 points and a +14. And then our top 3 here, my boy DPZ on Columbus, 3-0 for him, 7 points, 2 goals, and a +10 on the right side. Downey, 3-0, 7 points, and a +5, playing both right and left D. And the number 1 man this week, as LG claims, Bad Play BJ, 4-0, 6 points, and a +14. And my number 1 star of the week for defense will also go to Bad Play BJ with his 4-0 record. A couple big wins against LA, Nashville, Arizona. Notably, 3 teams, Arizona in the playoffs, but LA and Nashville were fighting for a spot. And BJ came up clutch and made sure Edmonton got those wins with his +14 and 6 points. So, Bad Play BJ, my player of the week on defense.
Little side note on that as well. Bad Play BJ is also the creator of the little emblem on Moran's banner with his name right there, and he's also the creator of our banners for the LG Hockey Hotline official Twitter account. He's made those, and he's been on top of it since becoming a BOG as well. Anytime any question's been asked, he's been right there with an answer doing it. So I just wanted to give him a quick shout out on that side of it as well.
And I'd like to say I did not know of that before making that statement, so there was no bias opinion in choosing him the number 1 star.
Well, moving along and moving onward and upward here, we're getting to the forwards, and these are usually the point getters, and we have some serious point getters this week. A lot of familiar names and some new names, as it is every week. We have Litz McLovin from the Colorado Avalanche, made the 20th spot here. He went 3-0 this week with 9 points. You got Novak for Prez on the list here. He went 4-0, as well as Ransom 613, who went 4-0. J Claw is coming in at number 17 this week, going 4-0 with 11 points. I've got your 6. He made the list, going 2-0-1 this week, picking up 12 points. And then you have DeBard for Columbus, as well as Theos, going 3-0 and 4-0 respectively. King Clutch made the list this week, going 3-0-1, scooping up 15 points. B Bunny for Nashville, part of that big trade that sent Sloshy to Edmonton and B Bunny over to Nashville, came in with a 2-0-1 record this week to help Nashville along the way. Gucci Mane 50 for Pittsburgh comes in on the list with a 2-0 week. There's another one of those 2-0 guys who only played 2 games this week, but did scoop up 12 points in those 2 games and managed to be a plus 14. Bone Crusher making the list, going 1-0-1 on the week, which is that's a little bizarre, but hey, who am I to judge? Kush Demon, looks like he had himself a hell of a week out there in Tampa. He's an outstanding player. Goes 4-0 on the week with 15 points. D-Stars, SC99, 3-1 for the Winnipeg Jets, helping them get into the playoffs with an 18-point week in those 4 games. Sudsy went 2-0 for Minnesota. Our boy RV Clutch coming in the 6th spot. Picked up 13 points on the week, 7 of which were goals, was a plus 10, went 3-0 on the week. That's a great job, Clutch. Koistizer went 3-0 on the week with 13 points. Ovechkin Jr. for the Edmonton Oilers. I know he had a really good game against us on Wednesday, went 3-0 this week, picking up 15 points. And then there's TCX7, who just continued to pour it on down the stretch in the season. And he came damn close. I mean, damn close to catching JC Penn's on the last night of the season for the points lead in the season. So my hat's off to TCX7. Had an outstanding season for Ottawa. He went 3-1 this week with 20 points, 10 of them being goals, 10 of them assists. That's a picture of perfect right there. You got 10 and 10, a plus 8, 5 points a game. Famous T Nasty went 2-0 this week. And then there's Triggered Kev, or Kev I, for the LA Kings, going 4-0 this week, picking up 9 goals, 8 assists, was a plus 9 at 4.3 points per game. And this one's really tough for me. It's an extremely tough call because you got some guys up there at the top that did go undefeated. But, I'm going to have to go ahead and man, this is a really tough one for me. I guess I should have decided before I got on the air here, but man, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Triggered Kev. That's a great job for LA playing down the stretch. I don't know if he had played on Wednesday or Thursday, but I believe they were eliminated as of Wednesday, and he still went out there and they won their games that he played in. Picking up 17 points this week, 9 goals, 8 assists, plus 9. It's a great job down the stretch for LA for Kev. It'll be interesting to see what happens in Los Angeles come next season, knowing that they have lost their owner, who I thought was going to be in place for a good long time over there in Los Angeles. So, we'll see what comes of it, and we'll see where LA goes. But Kev had a great week there, and I know he's coming back next season, as he was a first-round draft pick for them this season as well. So hats off to you, Triggered Kev, and the LA Kings for making it interesting down the stretch.
Absolutely. So moving on here, great job to everybody there in the weekly power rankings. Great way to end the regular season. And to get to the league leaders for stats finishing out the season. JC Penn's did end up finishing with the league lead in points. He had 111 points, which is also a new single season record in points. TCX7 ended up tying the old season record before Penn's broke it at 106, but Penn's had 111 points to finish the season, leading the league. He also led the league in goals with 65. followed by Busy 313, who finished with 57. The league leader in assists this season was Kraz 18, finished with 64 assists, and the league leader in plus minus was Fu Mancheesy, who finished at a plus 86. He finished 25 ahead of the second place person, who was KG3 in OT, or in Ottawa, I guess probably is what that double T is. I have no idea. Too many goddamn names. And those were your league leaders for points, goals, assists, and plus minus. And then for goals against average, well, hold on 1 second. Since the league already set everything up for playoffs, I had to go actually into the stats instead of the main page. So now I have to weed out all the centers, left wings, right wings, and left and right defensemen who have 0 goals against average on the season. Still not doing it. I'll get to that in a minute. So anyway, let's go ahead and start getting into some of these playoff matchups so we can break them down real quick and talk about that. Let's move into our first matchup, which is going to be the New York Islanders versus the Boston Bruins.
Playoff time. The
pretty interesting.
Choir.
Pretty interesting matchup. They only played 3 times in the regular season, and Boston did win that series 2-1. In this series, Boston outscored the Islanders 13-5. And let's see. So they played. I don't know what dates those are. If those are December, November, when they played. But when they played makes a difference because the Islanders hit a rough patch in the middle of the season, and made some moves and got their team tightened up. Tough to catch the teams in their division to get up, and they finished in the wild card spot. But this matchup here ought to be interesting. Of course, Boston coming into the playoffs, they had the number 1 overall pick in the draft this season, picking up Bone Crusher, who just picked up 12 points in 2 games this week. They've got a pretty deep roster, but their roster has changed a lot as the season has moved on here. Have very few guys that were on this team to start with, but they do have some really good players on it. And the Islanders, their team as well, they've got solid goalies, and of course Luigi plays base and Alonzi. I want to say that I think that Boston probably has the stronger forward core here, but the defensive core for the Islanders and their goaltending, we talked to Two Slick on the trade deadline show, and he also thought that the defensive core was an extreme strong point for the Islanders. What do you guys see about this matchup? What do you think this is going to be like as far as the series goes?
After you.
I think Boston's easily the favorite, but I don't think that counts the Islanders out necessarily. Just looking at the Bruins' top players with Soccer Player, Bone Crusher, Chief, Sweet Lou, Benz. I mean, you could list the whole roster. I think they are the favorite in that sense. And just looking at the roster, be like, okay, that's a good team. The Islanders, though, they have talent, and I think they have the ability to put something together. We've seen them have some good wins this season, and they've already knocked off Boston once, so that means they can beat them. Now, again, the lineups might be a little different, so we might not get a good idea in that sense, but they do have plenty of talent to get the job done. I don't think it would be easy. I think it would be a 6-7 game series for sure. But you have stay-at-home D, one of the best defensemen in the league. You have a player like Hazy Hype who can go out and put up, 3-4 point nights like nothing. It's just a matter if he's on top of his game. So, I'm looking at Boston being the favorite, but I don't count the Islanders out by any means whatsoever.
For me, this is going to be an interesting series because Boston made a lot of changes, but they were able to just keep playing consistent, good hockey down the stretch, and their team is very different from the way it was at the beginning of the season. They had those several high draft picks in the draft this season, so they were set up nicely coming into the season, but only one of those guys remains. And, whereas the New York Islanders have also made a ton of moves this season. Two Slick's done a great job over there. Stay-at-home D's, an outstanding defenseman for them. You got Gagin, who was brought in from the Los Angeles Kings, who's a really good defenseman. Looking down the matchups here, it looks pretty damn even between these two teams. Everything, they're dead even, 50-50 when it comes to faceoffs. The time on attack is dominated a little bit more by Boston, as well as the shots. And Boston is up 2-1 in the series for the season, but I'm not counting the New York Islanders out in this one. I think it's going to be a hard fought series, and I think we're going to be in store for a series that could go the distance here. But it may not. You never know. We'll see what happens. I think it's going to be two well-matched teams, two evenly matched teams, and we'll see where this one takes us come the end of the week.
For sure. I do want to say for the Bruins, Matt 40-29, their goaltender, has played outstanding down the stretch, and I think the Bruins, they're in this series probably more so than the other series that are around. I don't think they'll have to worry about the matchup as much. I think the Bruins match up play style wise very well against the Islanders. So I do think they'll win this series, and I don't think it'll be extremely tough. However, that's why we play the games, because anything can happen. So I expect Boston to win this series. But I mean, honestly, nothing will surprise me in any of these series. Every team that made the playoffs deserves to be here. So, we'll see how it plays out, of course, but I am picking Boston to win this series. Moving on to our next one, Winnipeg versus Chicago.
Let's officially get this down here. Goose, who do you got winning the series and in how many games?
I'll take Boston in 6.
We got Boston in 6. Jonathan, what do you got here?
I got to find mine because I already clicked it on the site, and I want to give the same number I gave. So you go.
I'm going to go ahead, and I am going to take Boston in I'm going to say go ahead and take Boston in 6 here as well. I'm right there with you, Goose. I think they're going to get it done in 6 games, but I think the Islanders are going to give them a run for their money here and could scare them, and I think this thing's going to be tied up 2-2 after the first 4 games, and then Boston's going to close it out with 2 wins in a row.
I can't find it. I do think Boston's going to win, and I think Boston wins this in 5 games. I don't think they'll sweep them. It's tough to pick any series sweep, honestly. But I think Boston in 5 games.
There you go. Boston in 5 games. Boston in 6. Boston in 6.
Are you writing those down?
Yep.
It is recorded, just so you know. Moving on to our moving on to our next matchup, which will be Winnipeg and Chicago. And Winnipeg and Chicago played each other 4 times this year. Chicago went 3-1 against them. So they did not sweep them in those 4 games, if anybody's keeping track. I do think Chicago here is the tougher team. They seem to have split their first line a little bit to try and create depth across the lineup, across an already pretty deep team. And ended up winning the President's Trophy. For me, go ahead and take a note down because I'll give my pick right now. I know I picked Boston to win this series 5-1 or 4-1, 5-1. 5 games, they're going to win this one 4-1. Chicago isn't going to be stopped, I don't think. Though I do think Winnipeg's first line can compete with them, and I think Danny Briere and DC Stars probably steal a game for them. Could even steal 2 possibly, but one line isn't going to be enough to beat the Chicago Blackhawks in the first round of the playoffs this year. So I am picking Chicago to win this, and I think that Chicago's got the upper hand as far as every position here, whether it's goalie, defense, or forward, across the entire group. So what do you guys think?
Looking at this, it was a 3-1 season series for Chicago, though one of the games was a forfeit. So, and looking at all the scores here, all 1-goal games. So, I think, I think you're right in saying that Chicago is
4-3.
Yeah. So I think you're right in saying Chicago is the favorite. I think if Winnipeg had any other matchup, I think they could, compete much more. I think it'll be a close series, but I think in the end, Chicago's just the better team, and I believe Chicago can pull this out. I'm with you on the prediction. I'm going to say Chicago in 5. But like I said, if Winnipeg had any other matchup, I think they'd be in a much better position. It wouldn't surprise me if they push it to 6 or 7 games. But if I'm a betting man, I'll take Chicago in 5.
Now, this one is one of those ones where, for me, I don't think. Chicago's, obviously the President's Trophy winning club, and they've got firepower. Excuse me, coming at you from every direction, whether it's their forwards, whether it's their defenders, whether it's their goalies shutting you down. I just think Chicago is far superiorly outmatching Winnipeg, and it's going to be a rough series for Winnipeg. Although Winnipeg does have some outstanding players on their team, with Danny Briere and some of the other guys that they've picked up here towards the end of the season, and with Jay Carlos, being removed, I think they're going to struggle here to find their game in the playoffs. I think this is a tall task for them, and I just think Chicago is just too deep from top to bottom, and they're just going to outmatch them and overpower them. I'm going to go ahead and take Chicago in a sweep in this one 4-0.
Ooh. Well, moving on, we will get to our next series here, which is going to be Ottawa versus the Florida Panthers. And, we had Downey on last week who picked Florida to win the Cup against the Dallas Stars. Florida and Ottawa went 2-2 against each other this season, and Ottawa beat them 3-2. Lost. Florida won 4-3, and then Ottawa won 2-1. And so those are all 3 1-goal games, and then the only blowout game in this series goes to the Florida Panthers, who won a game 6-1 against Ottawa. But Ottawa's a team that we were talking about in the last couple of weeks of the season, who have really improved as the season has gone along, and done it extremely quietly, as nobody's been talking about the Senators at all. I think this could be a tough matchup for Florida. Of course, Ottawa has guys like Beavesy, Raging Sloth, Bloop, Dankchank, LeBlanc, TCX7, who has really had an outstanding last third of the season, scoring like 18, 21, and 20 points in each of the weeks there, finished in second in the league in scoring. I think the Florida Panthers are going to, probably struggle a little bit to shut down the Senators' offense. But I do think the Florida Panthers will win this series ultimately. I think they've got forwards that can score, Maybe not as much as the Ottawa forwards. Probably, though, guys like Voltep who are outstanding players. But I think Florida's defense and their goalies with Ethos Jinx, I think they get the job done. I think this series will go in 6. I do think if this series goes 7, that Ottawa's TCX 7 playing in a game 7 with Beavesy and all their top guys there, Dank Chank. I think that might be a tough matchup for Florida, but I do think Florida wins this one in 6.
For me, looking at the series, it's pretty even. Obviously, going 2-2, and you're looking at the stats, just head-to-head matchups, really even. Both take a good amount of penalties. The time of attack is within a minute of each other. They both hit. They both shoot. So it's a pretty even matchup. You look at the rosters. I think just looking off names alone and performances individually alone, I think I would favor the Panthers. But it's certainly going to be closer than that. Like all these series, again, I could reiterate the same thing for every single matchup if I wanted to. But I think Florida's definitely favored in this. And like you mentioned, TCX can certainly make a difference on his own. But I think that would, really have to come in a game 7 when they have Ottawa has their entire best lineup out there. And Nick, their right wing too. I think they can make a difference, but I think it has to be in a game 7. I just don't think they can get to game 7. I'd take Florida in 6 games here. Again, Ottawa's a good team, but Florida, I think they're more well-rounded, and I don't think Ottawa can get it done. And especially recently playing Florida, I didn't see what the lineups were. But they played Florida this past week and lost 6-1. So I'll take Florida in 6.
And their lefty, Logie Cool, is an outstanding defenseman. I played some games with him this week, and he's really got some moves. I suspect him and Clutch playing together can do a lot of damage.
I would definitely suspect that as well. Now, I think this series is going to be back and forth. I think these guys are going to trade punches, and everyone's been talking a lot about Florida, coming into the playoffs and the run that they've put together. And Ottawa has just kind of, been the silent killer all season. They've been right there. They've been taking care of business all season long. And they got some guys on the back end, I think, that are severely underrated players in Beavesy, who shared the league lead for defensemen and takeaways with Maranaconda.
Of course,
he's a solid defender. Bloop 33 is an outstanding defender. TCX 7's a really good player. I mean, he's right up there in the tops this year with the points. And then on the other side, you do get Voltep. He's been back at it here. He's been playing a lot more since the first few weeks of the season. Braden for the Florida Panthers. Of course, you got King Clutch, Ethos Jinx in net. This is going to be a back and forth series, and I can't really go one way or the other. Dubs is outstanding.
You're going to have to,
I think that this one could go either way. But I am going to go ahead and I am going to say that Florida is going to take this one, but it is going to take 7 games, and that 7th game is going to be one to watch. Everybody, if you can tune in and that game's on the site, make sure you tune in and watch it, because they're going to be going to the death. And I think Florida wins that final game in overtime to take it the maximum amount of distance in this series, and Florida takes it in 7 games.
Yeah. It's what I think is interesting before we move on to our next series here is how when you're looking at playoff series, it's different than looking at real hockey, because every line plays in every game. The way LG has the breakdown of what games you're eligible to play by what game and what series, I think a game 7 versus a game 6 can really change the outlook for a team in a series. That a team can win a series in 6 games, but if they go to 7, one team might have the better line, so it might turn in their favor because they have the better line. as far as if you have one line to put out there to win one game. Some teams have a stronger first line to put out there, but other teams are deeper and can win more games quicker. So I think it's really interesting how breaking down these matchups, I feel like Ottawa, if Ottawa's going to win, or if Florida's going to win this series, I think they're going to win it in 6. I do think it would be tough to win it in 7, though I don't think their top lines are that far separated. Moving on to our next matchup, it'll be St. Louis versus Dallas. Dallas, of course, the highest scoring team in the regular season for LG this season, scored a shitload of goals. And had the number 2 goal scorer in the league on their team in Busy 313, who's a friend of ours who was on our team in the AHL in season 1. Very good player. Dallas is deep. It does hurt that they lost Devin to get in a band, so they had to replace him after the trade deadline. Not able to make a move, had to call up Dan Man 22, who's another friend of ours, to the main roster there. But Dallas and St. Louis went 2-2 against each other, and St. Louis, the 2 games St. Louis won, they won 3-2 and 4-1, and the 2 games Dallas won, they won 6-3 and 9-3. Dallas, kind of like the real life Dallas Stars, this is a team that is, their goalies and defense in LG are better than the real life Dallas Stars, I would say. But this team wins most of its games by outscoring you. They have very few games where they shut it down and try and win a game 2-1 or 3-1, something like that. They want to score 6, 7, 8 goals in a game. We had Nick on earlier, Primetime, who's with the St. Louis Blues, and I think that the Blues really in the second half of the season were able to turn it on and were a completely different team. We talked to Raya the Beholder on the trade deadline show, and he seemed a lot more confident on that show than he did earlier in the season as the team came together. So I do think this will be a tough series for Dallas. St. Louis, of course, has ZD Ball, who is a top 5 pick in the draft this year. They made a trade for N. Riney from Buffalo late in the season. Of course, they got Sam at goalie, Primetime at center, Rye on defense, 31 on right wing. They've got a bunch of people. Their goalie's Apex Predator. I think the Blues will put up a big fight here against the Dallas Stars, but I do think the Stars will overcome that. They've got an extremely deep team, and until the final week of the season, we're making a run at Chicago to have that number 1 spot in their division, which obviously ended up being the President's Trophy. So I'm going to pick the Dallas Stars, and I think the Dallas Stars win this series in 6 games. I think the Blues do steal a couple of games here, but I think overall the firepower of the Dallas Stars will be a little overwhelming, and they will end up winning this series in 6.
For me, looking at this series, Dallas had obviously that 9-3 blowout win, and looking through, I went through and looked at the games, and that was obviously one that stands out just by the score. But when you look at the stats, Apex Predator goalie for the Blues let up 9 goals on 13 shots, so obviously that just wasn't his game. So you take that one with a grain of salt for me. I think Dallas is a good team, like you mentioned. I think they can score pretty much whenever they want to, but I also think St. Louis is a very good team defensively, and I think this will be back and forth. I think it'll be sort of one of those games, a series, at least in some of the games where if you play HUD or something, you're complaining of ice tilt because you get 30 shots on net and you can't score a goal, but the other team gets like 6 shots on net and they score 1 or 2 goals. I think Dallas is going to be able to pepper St. Louis with shots and scoring chances, but ultimately I think St. Louis, not even just with goaltending, but just being able to force bad shots, being able to force contested shots, whatever you want to call it, they'll get in the face of Dallas, and while Dallas may hold the puck more, St. Louis will counter any sort of offense and turn it into a chance of their own. It's going to be an even series, but I'm going to go St. Louis in 6 over Dallas. I think that loss of Devin really hurts Dallas, and I think St. Louis is going to be able to benefit off that and come home with the series win.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's extremely interesting. But I think that's a great breakdown, Goose. I'll be honest with you. I think that's an amazing breakdown because, when you do look in depth at these two teams and the games that they've played, everything is basically right down the middle. With St. Louis holding the advantage in face-offs, and a lot of people may not think that that's a big deal, but that's a really big deal. You control the face-off dot, you control the puck, you control time on attack, you control momentum. And in this game, possessing that puck and having it on your stick and continuing to get shots is how you win. And I think St. Louis does a great job of possessing the puck. And I think they play great defense. Their forecheck is outstanding. They've been playing really good down the stretch here to get themselves into the playoffs. Let's not forget, just a few short weeks ago, they were sitting on the outside looking in, and they put together a nice second half of the season to get themselves into the playoff picture. And when you got Prime, on the team, who's one of the top face-off men in the league, sitting at almost 60% in the face-off dot, which is outstanding. I really gotta almost lean towards the St. Louis Blues in this one. It's really tough for me to pick either one of these because it is dead down the middle. And Dallas has that firepower. They have that top line that is not going to lose a game in this series. This one's going to come down to the matchups. Does St. Louis play their top line against Dallas's top line? And if they do that, I think that's going to be a mistake. I think they're going to have to go for the matchups in this game. They're really going to have to play it perfectly to get by Dallas. But I agree with you, Goose. I think St. Louis is going to take Dallas out in the first round here and shock the world and pick this series up in 7 games.
That's interesting. I'm getting ganged up on again. It would not shock. I would say out of all these matchups that we've gone through so far, St. Louis to me would not be a huge shock to beat Dallas. I think St. Louis from week 5, week 6 on has been a night and day different team from St. Louis of the first 4 weeks. And they've been playing with everybody, beating really good teams. This team has clicked. They brought in the right guys at the right time, did not make that many moves, only added a couple pieces here and there. Have a really solid core that's been there most of the season and really have hit their stride and started to play very well. So I wouldn't be shocked, but I do think Dallas will overpower scoring wise, and you know how the momentum is in these games. Whichever team grabs that momentum and gets the shots flowing on net and can get a couple by the goalie.
Momentum is just not built into the game.
Yeah. So anyway, ought to be one of the more interesting series to watch, in my opinion, for sure. Moving on to our next one. Not a matchup that I thought likely at the beginning of the season, the way Tampa started off, and we knew Pittsburgh was going to be good. But we have Pittsburgh versus Tampa Bay Lightning here. They played each other 3 times. With Pittsburgh winning all 3 matchups against Tampa. Honestly, Tampa is a completely different team than they were to start the season. They did what they had to do to get into the playoffs, had a couple of solid weeks towards the end of the season, but after that 9-0 first week, they made a bunch of moves, changed a lot of things on the roster. Still do have some really good players on their roster, but for me, Pittsburgh's forwards, defense, and of course, quite possibly the best goalie, if not the best goalie, definitely a top 2 or 3 goalie in the league, and King Cons on their team. I think Pittsburgh will beat the Lightning in this series. Of course, the Lightning have Zefster, headshot on their team, Chaskin. They've got Kush Demon, who was on the power rankings this week. But Pittsburgh made that trade for Jay Cool from Buffalo at the trade deadline. They've got Pete Sire. Did we decide on Recky Sparkplug? I think Pittsburgh's depth across all three lines will help them win this series. I think they win this series in 5. But Tampa's goaltending has been really good, and they could present problems for Pittsburgh scoring and have a quick strike offense. So we'll see what happens, but I do think Pittsburgh wins this series in 5 games, 4-1.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing for me. Whoever wins in the goaltending category. Now, obviously, just looking at it, you immediately assume Cons is the number 1 goaltender, and it's really tough to argue that. But to me, Zefster's the most underrated goaltender in LG. I think he's really good. He has a good team in front of him. So I think it's going to be Cons and Zefster, assuming they take a majority of the games. I think that's going to be the real battle we see. But to me, like you said, Pittsburgh, they're so good. Just they have that core they've kept. They've made trades, but they have a core that they've kept together for a while. And that Pittsburgh team is just really, really good. Taking nothing away from Trask in Tampa Bay. They're a good team as well. But to me, I think Pittsburgh is the favorite in this series. I think it's going to be close, though. I'll take Pittsburgh in 7. I think it's going to go the distance. I think we're going to see both goaltenders steal games throughout the series, and I do think it'll be close. I'll take Pittsburgh in 7.
Well, this one sure is going to be the battle of the goaltenders. You're right there. I think, Cons is I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think Cons is the best goalie in the league. Maybe statistically it doesn't say that, but his stats are pretty damn good. Zeph has kind of come out of nowhere this season. He's played outstanding for Tampa. Even when they've made all the changes, Zeph has been right there playing extremely well for them all season. Same with Bernatchez. I think it's definitely going to come down to the goaltenders in this game, but Headshot is an outstanding player for Tampa. So is Biggie Biggs. Ransom's a great player. They have Loops over there, and the list goes on and on and on for Tampa. And then on the other side, I mean, they took a big hit this season losing Frost, and that's really going to hurt Pittsburgh and their chances at winning this series. But they still got players in Easton's 17, Gerg's 28. Quantum Physics is an outstanding D. They'd made that move to pick up J Cool at the trade deadline. They have some solid players over here.
JP neutrality 11.
JP, I mean, the list goes on for
Becky.
Pittsburgh. So this is going to be an interesting series. Man, all of these are so tough because now we're into the point of the season where every team's a good team. Every team that's in the playoffs right now earned their way into the playoffs, and these matchups are going to be outstanding to watch here. But I am going to have to go with the Grizzled Vets here, the team that has been together for quite some time here with their core. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh, and I'm going to say they're going to take this series in 6 games. And now that's not a knock to Tampa. I think Tampa's an outstanding team, but I just think Pittsburgh has a little bit more depth. They're going to be able to get it done on a more consistent basis, as Tampa, has kind of slid in the second half of the season, and they've kind of come down off that level that they were on at the beginning of the year. And I think this one's going to be won by the solid play and consistent play from top to bottom of the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're going to win this series in 5, or what did I say, 6? I said
6
5.
games.
I did say 6. Yeah, they're going to take this one in 6.
5. Moving on to what I think is probably the toughest matchup for round 1, Anaheim versus Vancouver. Vancouver did go 1-4. Anaheim won 4 out of the 5 games against each other this season. Anaheim won 4-2, 4-3, 3-2, and 4-0. And Vancouver won their final matchup 4-1 this week against the Ducks, and the Ducks, worst week of the regular season, going 4-6. But Vancouver's a team that, based on the statistics, I guess you would say, as far as Anaheim going 4-1 against them, you would say Anaheim matches up better against Vancouver than Vancouver does against Anaheim. But I think Vancouver is a team that, Anaheim finishing with the second best record in the entire league. For them, they would probably hope that they got an easier matchup in their first round than the Vancouver Canucks, who, with guys like Cummins and Marash and Jay Nasty on defense. Jay Nasty, I will get you on the show. Don't worry, man. He's another guy that's been wanting to come on. Crosby and net, who's had an outstanding season again. They called up Geno Snipe, who was one of their management in the AHL this season. He's played really well this season for them. Vancouver's an extremely tough team. Of course, GMAC on right D. Phenomenal one at center who's outstanding. But the Ducks have depth. There are 3 lines on forward. There are 3 lines on defense, and both of their goalies. Schneider, of course, having the best season out of all the goalies in the league, and AHL All-Star, who, especially the second half of the season, has played incredible for them. I do think Anaheim wins this series, but I think they win this series in 7. I do not think that the Vancouver Canucks are going to be an easy matchup for them. I think it's going to be extremely tough. I expect a lot of 1-goal games in this series, as Anaheim played. It seemed like every single game they played was a 1 or 2-goal game this season. But I do think Anaheim takes it in 7, though I would not be shocked if Vancouver found a way to win this series.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I think for both sides, I think Anaheim is a great team, and the last team they wanted to face in the first round would be Vancouver. That was, obviously reasonable to face. Obviously, they probably don't want to face Dallas.
Out of all the choices.
Yeah. And Vancouver, they're a great team, but the last team they wanted to play in the first round was probably Anaheim. So it's going to be a good matchup. Like you mentioned, both teams have high-power guys. Jay Nasty on defense, Cummins, Morash, Crosby and nets, great for Vancouver. And then obviously Anaheim, we talked about them all season long with just a plethora of talent on their team. And we talked to Armstrong and what he envisioned with this team and what they were able to put together for Anaheim. So Anaheim won the season series 4-1, and I think that tells a decent story of how this series could go. But not watching any of the games and just going off the stats alone, I think the one thing that is popping out to me is the fact that the Vancouver Canucks had 29 penalty minutes in those games compared to the Ducks 12. I think that shows, to me, it shows Anaheim, forcing Vancouver's hand, making Vancouver try and get the puck away from them, making Vancouver have to make is not necessarily desperation plays, but really if there's a loose puck, instead of just laying back, they really feel like they need to get that puck, and they could get a charging penalty, a tripping penalty, high sticking, whatever it may be. So I think Anaheim is the favorite in the series. I think whatever Vancouver does, most of it's going to be off of countering Anaheim, trying to guess a play, trying to jump up and intercept a pass or block a shot and have somebody going for a breakaway sort of thing. I think Vancouver is going to really have to counter Anaheim well in order to win this series. And I think they'll do that. I just don't think it'll be enough. I'm going to take Anaheim in 5. It'll be a great series, though. And like I said, Anaheim's, for Anaheim, Vancouver is probably the last team they want to play. I just think the Ducks are too good to lose in the first round.
There is a caveat to the penalties, though, as you said, Anaheim had 10 power plays and only scored on 2 of them.
Right.
And Vancouver only had 6 power plays but scored on 3 of them. So they
Right.
scored more power play goals. So that also says that Vancouver seems to capitalize more on those mistakes, though Anaheim makes very few of them. So that'll be an interesting stat, you're right, to watch and see how that affects the series.
What was your prediction on that one, Jonathan? I missed that.
7. Anaheim and 7.
See, now that could be very well what happens in this one. At the beginning of the season, a lot of people would have said that Vancouver was going to be looking like the favorite to win this division along with Edmonton. And it just didn't work out that way. Right from the get-go, Anaheim was all over teams early in the season, and it continued right on through till the end. They stumbled a little bit in week 9, but, we'll all go ahead and just say that they were just resting their starters. They were already in the playoffs. They didn't want the curse of that President's Trophy. They didn't want any of that to get in the way of their job, and their job is to go out and get past the Vancouver Canucks. Now, the Vancouver Canucks are going to be a very, very tough task. This team is outstanding. I love the way they play. They move the puck quick. The Canucks, they have a very, very underrated center on their team and phenomenal. I think that guy is phenomenal. He's a great forechecker. He knows how to read the passing lanes extremely well, along with a lot of their other players. Mixter 77 was a good draft pick for them. He's an outstanding defenseman. R.W. Watson's a good player. Their goalie Crosby. Geno Snipe is a good friend of ours. He's been up there with them for about 3/4 of the season to halfway, about halfway to 3/4 of the season, along with Cummins, Jay Nasty, and they just keep coming at you on Vancouver. But, on the other side of the coin, you do have Anaheim. And Anaheim is just as good. They're good from top to bottom. Now, the thing I like about Anaheim is they play defense. They help their goalies. If you notice, if you look at Anaheim's record throughout the season, they keep the score down. They depend on their goalies to make saves, but they also play defense around their goaltenders. And it's a tall task to go into Anaheim and beat their goaltenders when they have 2 that are just extremely outstanding. And as you'll notice, in that matchup, in the season series, Anaheim only played Schneider and Vancouver only played Crosby. Well, in this series, they're going to have to play their second goaltenders, and, we'll see how that shakes up. But, as for me, I know Vancouver is one of those teams that we match up horrible against them. They play a certain style. There's certain teams out there that just play a certain style that just it shuts you down. And, there's other teams, it just works like that. So it's going to be an interesting series to keep an eye on because Anaheim's a solid defensive team. Vancouver's a solid offensive team. They forecheck like animals. So this is going to be a tight series. I think it's going to come down to the goaltending and who can play the best defense and get the bounces in this series. And I'm with you, Jonathan. This one's going to go 7 games. And I think Anaheim is just going to get by in 7 games. And Vancouver is going to give them every last bit that they can handle in this one. But Anaheim is going to come out on top in 7 games.
Yeah, and of course, Anaheim with guys like Armstrong, Holy Coley, Liquefy Star, OG Potsy, Tommy LeGamer, like they're going to come at you in every single game. And honestly, the goalie matchup, Crosby and Schneider. Schneider has the edge over Crosby this season statistically and has had the way better season, but also has the deeper team in front of him. I think, like you said, coming down to the backup goalie matchup, I think Anaheim has the edge on that. And, the way AHL All-Star has really come around the last 3-4 weeks of the season and has played outstanding, made his way on to the power rankings this week, which Schneider did not. I think that's probably going to be one of the points that you can look at and point at and say that might make the difference in the series for sure. But I do think it's going to be a tight series and one of the toughest series, in my opinion, to pick as far as the first round goes in the playoffs. So moving on, we have the New Jersey Devils and the Columbus Blue Jackets, our final Eastern Conference playoff matchup to preview here. You know, the season series was 3-2 Columbus, but New Jersey really, like we said, hottest team in the league the last 3 weeks of the season. So for Columbus early in the season, if you would have told them they'd get New Jersey in the first round, they probably would have been excited. But I can promise you they're not excited right now to get the New Jersey Devils. I don't think anybody in the Eastern Conference probably wanted to face the Devils in round one. But equally, the Devils probably didn't want to face the Columbus Blue Jackets in round one. So this is another fun series to pick. You know, I think this is one of those series that Chisnasty, he knows Jay Claus very well, and I'd be interested to see if New Jersey's going to throw him out there against Jay Claus and try and get a win against the Claus line, or are they going to match up their number one center against a different line and try and steal a win that way and match the Claus win? I don't see a sweep in this series. I think both teams are just playing way too well to expect to shut the other one down 4 times in a row. I think that the way these teams match up, Columbus's first line with Jay Claus and Theos is going to be a near impossible task to shut down, but the Devils might have the defensive core to do it. And their goalies, you know, Bielski being, if not the hottest goalie in the league, definitely one of the hottest goalies in the league right now. Very tough to pick this series for me. Looks like Tris picked the Devils in 6 and the Devils in 7. Just happened to catch that. Must be a system glitch, but I'm going to wait just a second for my pick here. Want to hear your breakdown on this one, Goose.
To me, it's almost like Vancouver, Anaheim in a sense that you know, the Blue Jackets being the higher seed, they don't want to play the Devils because of how good the Devils has been. But I think the Devils want to play Columbus. I think that they're on such a hot streak. They have that swagger about them, just seeing them in the shout box and knowing a few players on the team. The Devils are a good team, much better. I think if they were, you know, had this core and not necessarily on this role, because then obviously they'd be the best team in the league. But if they had this core and really were settled this whole season, I think they would have been fighting for a number one seed going into the playoffs for sure. But regardless, I think this is the matchup they wanted because they can. Columbus is not unbeatable. Not saying New Jersey is either, but I think the Devils have that momentum going for them. I think they're ready. They know what they're matching up against. You know, how Columbus plays. Obviously, Jay Claus is the guy on Columbus, but you forget they got Theos too. They have a couple great defensemen. End of a circle, we always see him on the top 20, and then you see Niner 80 Rice, one of the, I think he's the owner of the team, obviously. So you know, it's to me, it's going to come down to, I guess you could say, the goalies in the sense of Bielski versus Lammers, but I think it's more on Lammers. We know Bielski is going to show up, at least I think so, and he's going to put in some great games in net. Can Lammers match his performance? I think that's the number one thing. I think Lammers is a good goalie, but can he match how hot Bielski's been lately? And, you know, you can have your opinion on whether Bielski's been as good as he has been because of him, or it's been because of the team in front of him and the teams they've been playing. So to me, this is the matchup of the first round, in my opinion. This is the number one matchup. I'm going to watch every single game that I'm able to, because I really want to see what can happen here. This New Jersey team is good, but we know how good Columbus is. I look at a guy like Jay Claus, obviously, I knowing him very well. I don't think this New Jersey defense is a defense he can't get through. I think Claus, he's going to have one or two of his goals where he just goes through and dekes around the entire team and just scores, because that's what he can do. And we obviously saw him put up 10 points in the 4 games against New Jersey. Granted, different rosters, different lineups maybe, but this is going to be a hell of a series. I'm going to take the Devils in 7.
Devils in 7. Now, I agree with you. Did you just say the Devils in 7?
Yeah.
I agree with you. Did you just?
No, I mean, I didn't finish my point. As far as I agree with you, this is going to be the series to keep an eye on here. There's already been some shit talking between Black Mamba. He's made a post on the site, that was playoff hype. FU Columbus, so they've been going at it already in threads on the site. Since about early this week when it was looking like they were going to line up and match up against each other. Now this is a very interesting one to me. This matchup definitely stands out. Number one, because it's New Jersey and Columbus. Number two, it's because they made that huge trade. Novak for Prez and Theos got sent to Columbus for Schwartz, X9, and Alex Drum. And, here we are. That trade ends up being round 1 matchup. You got Theos on the Columbus Blue Jackets now, and you got Alex Drum now on the New Jersey Devils. So, I mean, we're going to see in a definitive manner who actually won that trade. And it's going to come in the form of a 7-game series in the playoffs here. Now, on the New Jersey side, I love what they got going. Alex Drum is a solid player. They have Chiz Nasty. They have Colt Crazy. They have Corked. They have Flapjack, Ja Gerard, Schwartz, Serp. The list goes on. Extremely solid team. Now, on the other side, for Columbus, you have J Claus. You have Fool. You have Niner Rice. You have Theos. Now, there's a guy on this team that a lot of people sleep on, and that's Vexculence. He is an outstanding player in this league. He is a sleeper left wing for them, and not to mention the fact that they have Trio Big Mac, who is a perennial Norris Trophy candidate every single season. So, I mean, this series is going to be a battle. It's going to go back and forth. It's going to be great line after great line going against each other. And when the dust settles at the end of this thing, one of these teams is going to come out on top. And I'm not exactly sure which one it is. It's definitely going 7 games, but I think in the end, when the dust settles, the Columbus Blue Jackets are just going to be a little too much for New Jersey to handle, and they're going to come out on top in this one in 7 games.
Yeah, I think for me, I think Columbus wins this one in 7 as well. But I think the series definitely goes 7 games, and I think Game 7's a coin flip, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I think in Game 7, you're definitely going to see a Claus versus Chiz matchup, and what you have there is a guy in Chiz who knows Claus very well, and a team in the Devils who want to shut down Theos, who they traded away, from what Colt said, different reasons. So, it'll be interesting to see how that goes, though I do think that firepower that Columbus provides offensively with their number 1 line, you put them out there for a Game 7 and just have them go for Game 7. I do think they get it done.
Along with a defender like Trio Big Mac. You throw him out there in the mix, I mean, that's going to be one hell of a team to play in a Game 7.
Absolutely. But one thing I did want to point out is J Claus has 41 penalty minutes on the season. And one of the things for him is, he can't be effective if he's not on the ice. So he's going to have to keep the discipline together here for the playoffs, because New Jersey is a team that can capitalize on him not being on the ice for a power play. So that'll be something to keep an eye on, though I do think Columbus wins this one in 7 games.
Real quick. Go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead.
Real quick, 2 things. You said J Claus can't be effective when he's not on the ice. That is false. I played club with him last night. I scored 3 penalty kill goals while he was in the penalty box, so I beg to differ there. But secondly,
effective you were.
Exactly. Well, maybe it wore off. I don't know. But I think the big X factor in this series will be Claus, and I think this game, if Columbus is going to win this, they're going to win it in 4. But I don't see that happening, and I think it's going to come down to a Game 7. And I think Chiz. I favor Chiz at. I can't even say I favor him in the defense, because Claus is just really good at dropping back and playing defense and back checking. But to me, in my experiences watching Claus, playing with Claus for the last 2-3 years, when it comes to big situations, it's not that he doesn't get stuff done. He just tends to make an extra move when he doesn't need to. He tends to look for the extra pass or tries to set up that perfect goal when all he really needs to do is get a shot on net or just make a quick drop pass or something. And I think just a little thing like that, this New Jersey team is so good that they can capitalize on anything like that. I mean, I played Black Mamba, and again, I'm on Washington. We're not a great team compared to what New Jersey is, but Mamba, he just capitalized on every single mistake that was made when we played him. And I really think that could be the downfall of Columbus. A little mistake, New Jersey could take advantage, especially in a Game 7 when they both have their, heavy hitting lineups out there.
For sure. And the one thing I was just going to quickly point out is that, yes, Claus does have 41 penalty minutes, but that's because he is an absolute animal on the forecheck. He's always up in there. He was second in the league in takeaways this season with 114. So, that when you're that aggressive trying to take the puck away, you do tend to take penalties. But, if you're taking the puck away 114 times in 28 games, then you're definitely doing something right. And, I'd be curious to see where their power or penalty kill efficiency came in to where how good they were actually at killing those penalties. But that's why he's taking them penalties, because he's so damn aggressive on the forecheck and takes that puck away, 10 times a game. So, I mean, it goes either way on those, but that's all I wanted to point out on that.
Also, one last thing, you guys may or may not know what I mean. I know, Mike, you probably didn't watch the game that Claus streamed this afternoon. Goose, I don't know if you did or not. Claus will outscore you unless he's got Martin Jones in net.
Yes, I feel so bad for him, man. I felt so bad for him. Jones let up 7 goals on 8 shots. That's just tough.
So, moving on to our final playoff matchup here of the night. The Arizona Coyotes making the playoffs for the first time in LG on the PlayStation side. Thank you very much. Versus the Edmonton Oilers, who are always an extremely tough team to play against. Our season series this year, the Oilers won 3-2. Every game was a high-scoring game between us. 7-5, 8-7, 6-4, 6-5, 7. I cut out there. So the one thing I will say is Edmonton winning the season series is interesting, though they did not have anybody on their team beat the Coyotes twice. That's something that you pointed out, Mike, before the show. And very interesting. I find that interesting. I did not know that until I saw this breakdown. So, this series between our two teams this year has been extremely interesting. It has been extremely tough. And Edmonton's got guys like Matt the Cool Cat, Lord Finesse, LaPlante, Knees, Bad Play, BJ, who was the #1 star on defense this week on the power rankings. M.A. Scottless has played really well recently. So Sick, of course, their owners. They picked up Pacioretty from the Nashville Predators at the trade deadline. Penguins 2013 has been playing outstanding in net. The Oilers are a deep team and have played very well. The Coyotes are also a deep team and have the league's leading scorer in J.C. Penn's. Schroyer has been outstanding on center this season. Kraz 18 finished with the league lead in assists. I think the way that this series goes, it's going to be back and forth just like it was all year. I am going to abstain from saying a pick out loud, though I will say I think this series is going 7 games. I think the way that our two teams match up against each other, that I think this will be a back and forth series. We'll see if our goaltenders, T-Bot and NHL Twister, are up to the task against the Oilers in this series. We have given up a lot of goals against them, but we've also scored a lot of goals. We did get shut out in the last matchup we faced against them this week. But to me, this is an interesting series, a good matchup, and is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm going to be having a heart attack watching all these games, honestly, especially the ones I'm not playing in, just watching the guys play. But, I trust the boys here in Arizona. It's going to be a fun series, and we'll see what happens.
This is going to be a good matchup, Edmonton and Arizona.
You won't hurt my feelings either, so don't worry about it.
No. I've looked through these a little bit before, and it says Edmonton is up 3-2 in the season series. I'm taking out the first game automatically. That was the first game of the year. Both teams are much different than they are now. You could even argue the second game is the same, but it's really those last few games, the last three specifically, that you saw the really the same core that we're seeing in the playoffs, give or take a few players. But looking at the matchup, I think top player-wise, I don't think, especially come playoff time, I don't think anybody can beat, assuming they're playing together, I don't think anybody can beat Pens, Kraz, and Schroyer together. I think that is one of the most dominating lines in the NHL. So if they are playing together come playoffs, because, again, every team has to reevaluate the lines because they have to figure out what matchups are going on, who is going to be playing who. You might take your second line to play the first line in the first game so you can get your first line against their second line in the second game. You might split up a couple line mates to spread out your talent because, again, you lose 4 games and you're done, and some guys might not get a chance to play again. So you really have to be smart with where you're playing your guys, when you're playing your guys. So we're going to see a lot of strategy go into this, and I think that's really going to be the who's going to decide the winner is the strategy in the lineups. I think Edmonton as well. Their defense is great with BJ and Knees on D. They have Matt the Cool Cat, Ovechkin 8, and Pacioretty, their top forwards. So it's going to be a back and forth series. 7 games is definitely reasonable. I think if it did go 7, I think Arizona would absolutely win. Again, if they're able to put out their top line in Pens, Kraz, and Schroyer, I don't think they're easily going to be beaten in the playoffs. But this is the hardest one. Everyone else I was able to come up with pretty easily.
Do you want me to leave so you can make your pick?
No. I look at it as if it goes 7, Arizona has the win locked up. It's just a matter if it can go 7 because we know how good Edmonton is as well. And it's been pretty even overall. What is it, a 2-goal game, a 1-goal game, and then a 7-goal game with Edmonton coming away with a big win there. But
we did finish tied in points as well.
Right. So this is probably the most evenly matched series, I think. This is tough. I'm gonna go with Arizona in 6, only because I think whenever I just think Schroyer, Kraz, and JC Pens, whether they play together or not, all on their own, they're difference makers. And not taking away anything from Matt the Cool Cat, especially, or Pacioretty. I just look at Arizona as a team that can win this series. Yeah, that's really it. It's so tough to call, but I'll take the Coyotes in 6.
There you go. All right, that's going to do it for us. No, just kidding. Yeah, it's it's damn near impossible to make a prediction on your own series. So I'm going to abstain from making a prediction myself as well. All I can say is that with the way every one of our games has gone this season against the Edmonton, this is going to be a shootout series. It's going to be a knockdown, drag out, and it is going to come down to the matchups. And obviously, I'm not going to tip any hands as to what we're going to be doing with matchups, as I'm sure Edmonton wouldn't as well. This one's going to come down to, defense. I honestly believe that this game is going to come down to defense because most of the games have been shootouts this year. It's going to be which team can actually shut it down and play defense is going to come out on top in this one. I just like to say that it is a pleasure to be able to be in the playoffs, and it's an honor to be playing Edmonton in the first round for the first time in Coyotes history. So, rather than break this matchup down, it's going to be an interesting one to watch. If you're around and you ain't got shit going on, flip on the Edmonton, Arizona game. I guarantee you will be entertained. So, it's going to be a good one. And, may the best team win. And, we'll see how it goes. But I am going to abstain from giving a prediction on this one. The top players on these teams, like you had said, Goose, Pens has been outstanding for us this season. Kraz was an outstanding pickup for us. Couldn't be happier to have him. Schroyer has coming in, been nothing but a pro for us this season. And Ruck was a good draft pick. Twist was a great draft pick. Sass was a good signing. T-Bod was a good signing. I love our team. I love our guys. And, it's going to be an interesting matchup going forward. But then on the other side, Matt the Cool Cat. Oso's got himself a strong team over there. You got Oso Sick, Matt the Cool Cat, M.A. Scottless, Lord Finesse, LaPlante, who I think is an outstanding center in this league. Nees is one of the best right Ds in the league, along with Bad Play BJ, who's one of the best left Ds in the game. So, you have some seriously high talent in this game going against each other, and this is going to be one to definitely keep an eye on moving forward into round one.
There's also a guy on Arizona who hasn't been mentioned. We picked up two guys, actually. Picked up Larkin, 71 from the Avalanche at the trade was it the trade deadline? I think it was. And also RV Clutch, who has been outstanding for us. Guys got outstanding moves as a natural goal scorer. So just a couple of guys that weren't mentioned there. And then there's a couple of guys. Goose, you had something to say. I'm going to mention a couple other guys on Edmonton as well in just a minute.
Yeah, real quick. I think this whole series is decided on the matchups and the middle games in the series, because I'm pretty sure just about every time you guys played in the regular season, it's been top line versus top line.
The 8-7 game was also an overtime game.
Yeah, so I think that's really what it's going to come down to, is the matchups, how you guys counter each other in a sense of what line's going against what line. I think that's really the only way you can look at a game and say, okay, this team is favored or this team is favored, is who they put out on the ice. But I think both teams have two strong lines, and it's tough. And I forgot even to mention LaPlante and Finesse, because those guys are fantastic too on Edmonton. So this is a really tough series to predict.
There's
but it's
also one
certainly
guy we haven't mentioned. Two guys we haven't mentioned. Madden's 26 has come up to the Oilers and played extremely well, and not one of the three of us mentioned Sloshy in this series.
Oh yeah, he's pretty good.
He's a guy that we did not face yet this season.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how he plays against us and how we were able to play against him. It's a tough guy to shut down. So him, T-Gill 36, we didn't mention. We haven't seen him this season. And obviously Ovechkin Jr., who we did mention, had an outstanding final game against us in the second to last game of the season. So, they also have Belaya and net. Their two goalies are really good. And this series, like I said, I can't pick a winner for this series because I'm involved in it, but I agree with Mike. Tune in. It will be something to watch. I don't know about you guys. We've been here almost 2 hours. We had some guests on tonight. I want to thank Nick Primetime from the St. Louis Blues, and of course the Team USA for Can-Am for coming on. Serp from the New Jersey Devils making an appearance on the show. Thank both of you for coming on the show. Thank everybody for tuning in. It was a wonderful regular season, and now the real season begins. We will see you next weekend to break down round one of the playoffs and see how everything went.
Yeah, I just want to say, before we get off the air here, just to start off, just thank everybody for a great season 3. For the teams that didn't make the playoffs, there's always next season. Don't hang your heads too low. You have bad seasons, and it's how you pick yourself back up and continue moving forward as a team that really defines your organization as a whole. So to all you out there that didn't make the playoffs, keep grinding. To all the AHL guys who are now looking to transition and make their way into the NHL, get to as many games as you can for tryouts. As far as prospects, get with owners, get your name out there, try to get in this Can-Am tournament, get noticed, get out there and get your name going so people know who you are, and they will take a chance on you and draft you at some point in the draft. Season 3 has been a blast. For us personally, for me personally, a lot of people didn't know who we were, didn't know anything about us, and rightfully so. We were taking over the joke of the league. So, I want to thank everybody who has been a Coyote all season, any past and present. Thank you guys so much for coming in and being complete professionals. From the guys that we had moved out, Daniel Epps, man, it was a pleasure being a teammate with you, Matson, Smitty, Crofto. You guys are class acts. And, I know our paths will cross somewhere down the road. And as far as everybody else out there in LG, here we go. The real season is about to begin. And, moving forward, who knows what the future is going to bring with owners. But I would say, all in all, a successful regular season in season 3. And, it's going to be a hell of a playoffs here. So, everybody, strap on your seatbelts because it's playoff time, boys. And, we're going to make our way out of here. So we'll talk to everybody next weekend with our wrap up of round 1, and we'll go into the Christmas break, and happy holidays to everybody.